Okay, so I did a video a couple days ago on cancel culture, and I got a little bit of backlash. People were explaining to me in the comments that, most of which I deleted already, that what about comedians? What about politicians? People that aren't intending to be offensive to other people, and they still get silenced or they lose their voice. And they felt like my criticism of Gina Carano was extreme, for my examples of why cancel culture doesn't exist. One, like I said in the video, if you're a celebrity and you use Twitter, it becomes different than when I use Twitter, right? No one knows who I am. I could use Twitter, I could tweet all types of racist stuff, all types of nonsense, all types of lies about elections. It might reach 5 people, it might reach a group of like weirdos in commenting on my tweets. But what would I get canceled from, right? There's nothing to cancel me from. And my point being is, like, as a black man, if you look back in history, we were never established to be canceled from anything. Black people couldn't have been canceled from anything until probably 20 years ago, like going back 20 years, right? So certain privileged people, you have to be in a privileged position, one, to be canceled, right? If you're not privileged, I'm not privileged. I'm just a normal guy in a house in the suburbs saying what I feel about politics, about life, from my perspective as a black father, as a black guy, as a young guy in this generation that's seeing changes happening. Whether some of those changes are good, some of those changes are bad. I'm not going to say all the changes are bad, all changes are good. But I do see changes, and my channel, or this channel, is to comment on how I see those changes from my perspective, right? And one of the big changes, the biggest changes I think in this decade, right, the 2020 decade to 2030, will be what some people see as cancel culture, right? One of my examples that in that preview, I said, like, why would you bring shit from your grandfather's era into your grandchildren's era, right? Between my grandfather and my grandchildren is probably going to be like 150 years of time between them, right? If you go back a couple of those generations, you look in before America was even born, before slavery in America, right? So it's like, would you have slaves today? No, you get rid of that, right? And I think the same people that's against cancel culture would have been 200 years ago or 100 years ago would have been like, why are you guys canceling slavery? What's up with that? What's wrong with slavery, right? They like being slaves. We feed them, we give them clothing, and we give them 30-minute breaks. What's wrong with being a slave? What's wrong with slavery? It helps the economy. It's good for the economy. If you get rid of slaves, you get rid of income that gives me money as a slave owner to give money to other employees, so they might lose their jobs, right? There's a lot of economical, political arguments for slavery. Actually, there's lots of arguments for slavery if you look at it from a standpoint of economics. Free labor, what the hell? That's the best. That's the pinnacle of good economics. Free labor, right? You're not paying your employees anything. You're churning out profits, right? So there's a big argument for slavery. Why do we have slavery today? Well, why do you think? It got canceled for a good reason, right? And the same reason slavery is canceled is why things, I don't want to say canceled, slavery wasn't canceled, right? A lot of the negative effects from slavery is still around today. It's why I'm making this video, actually. But it evolved, right? Evolved from slavery into segregation, into now what we see today is racism, so it's constantly evolving, right? It was never canceled, right? Slavery wasn't canceled. It's still here with us today. I did a video a couple videos back where I talk about my black family as a dad raising my kids in 2021. When it comes to education and housing, I'm facing the same hurdles my father and my grandfather would have faced in America in their time, right? Luckily enough for me, I grew up in different countries and I had a really great education that was not affected by me being black and was not affected by my parents being black. It was not affected by my parents not having a lot of money, right? I had a great education outside of America To the point when I came into America, in the American public school system, I skipped a grade because I was way ahead of what a public school in Brooklyn at the time was teaching, right? So I skipped the whole of third grade, I think, or second grade, and that had nothing to do with my skin color, right? So I came into this American system of education and housing at a benefit, at privilege, if you want to say, compared to a black American kid my age at the time in the 80s and early 90s, late 80s, right? So coming from another country, I had a privilege over other black American kids who lived in an institution where their education, their housing was based solely on them being black, right? If they're black, they were not getting the things I got outside of America for free. For free. My parents didn't pay extra money for me to be well educated before coming to this country. That being said, that's my point of cancel culture is not, you're not getting rid of Dr. Seuss, you're not getting rid of the British royal family, you evolve in them. The most beautiful thing I heard about the Meghan Markle thing was that Meghan and Harry, the symbol or what they represented for that family wasn't a biracial relationship. It was that old world, that colonial, that monarchy, that British Empire world. Meghan Markle was a bottleneck where all this old garbage was just there. I mean, it's respected, it's tradition, it's history, for British people, for white people, who benefited from it, right? It's there. It's this big bottle of garbage and just old world nonsense that's not going forward. Bottleneck into Meghan and Harry, right? And they represented maybe an opening. If you look at a bottleneck, it comes in and then it opens up again. An opening where the future for that family, the future for the British Empire, the future for the UK was about diversity, inclusion, progress, empathy, taking care of other people with mental health issues, people that don't look like you. It was a new beginning for that family to build on. It was something for them to make their own, right? Meghan and Markle is in the family. Let's make them part of us. Let's own them, right? Let's make them ours. Like, make their story our story, and then we grow from there. They didn't do that. That did not happen, right? What happened was the opposite of that. They didn't. I don't. For whatever reason, they looked at Meghan Markle like she was Leslie Jones, or she was like Grace Jones, or Queen Latifah. I don't know what black woman they saw in Meghan Markle that I'm not seeing. But I look at her. She's a lovely person. I don't know her personally, so I don't know what she's like behind closed doors. But she looks like a lovely person. She's definitely like a Flavor Flav black, or Bernie Mac black, or Leslie Jones. She's not like that. From what I could see, I don't know, maybe behind closed doors she's like Cardi B, I don't know. But they looked at that, and I think they need to own up to what happened with Meghan Markle. It's their story. It's not my story. As a black individual, I relate to that. If I was white, if I was blue-eyed, blonde, living well off, it had nothing to do with me. I'd just mind my business and float on, right? But cancel culture is exactly this whole story. It's what we're talking about today. It's how we move forward, right? What do we want to bring with us? Back when I was teaching, we used to, I was in Outward Bound, we used to have this thing, there's this initiative called the Backpack. And we told students, it was a skills lesson, a lesson of skills, right? You go into the Arctic, you have a backpack, you could bring 3 things, you have 10 things to choose from. And you go into this new environment that you're not going to be comfortable, it's going to be away from what your comfort zone is, right? And that's the future. It's not our comfort zone. It's not about being comfortable. It's going into unknown territory. We told these kids, these high school, junior high school kids, put 3 items out of the 10 into your backpack that you think will make you thrive in that environment, right? You put 3 things, and it was all physical objects, and some of it were skills objects, right? It could be like building a fire, or fishing, or hunting. You put that in your backpack and you go on, and then the game ensued with challenges, and the kids had to use what was in their imaginary backpack to overcome those challenges. If I took like the wrong item, like the ability to surf or a surfboard to an Arctic environment or winter environment, I failed, right? It didn't suit that environment going forward. Same thing with this, what we're talking about. Same thing with what cancel culture is. It's not a cancel culture, it's the culture of evolution, culture of progress. And if I'm looking forward into the future, I'm not going to be comfortable in that future. I don't know what the future holds. Like 5 years ago, the future for all of us is Donald Trump. We didn't know what the hell that was going to entail, and that was a wild ride, right? Maybe 5 years ago, the things I would have put in my backpack was put more money in my bank account for savings, make sure my health insurance I have good health insurance, make sure my kids are in a good school zone so they have good education. Because I don't know what Donald Trump would have, what that presidency, 4 years of that would have meant for me as a black family living, in this limbo kind of like area where I could, where I could fail or thrive, right? So those things in my backpack would have been based in that uncertain future. Same thing with this. If I'm a British royal family and I see this biracial couple in my household and they're part of the monarchy, they're part of who that family is, it's a change, a small change at the time, but going forward, I realize the world around us is changing. What do I want to put in my royal family backpack? Do I want to keep my old nonsense, my old garbage traditions of inclusion, of exclusions and stuff like that, or do you want inclusivity, empathy? Do I want to put good things in my, not good things, but I want to put tools in my backpack that's going to relate to what's going on around the world, right? Because if, Chris Rock said it well, when you make wrong decisions, life is long and hard, but when you make all the right decisions, life is a fun place to live. And if the palace, that monarchy, that firm, that institution, if they exclude certain things from inside their palace wall, inside their world, and the world changes around them, then their palace, that world that they live in, that micro bubble, that's going to keep shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And then eventually they're just turning each other, right? So I think that's what the cancel culture is. A culture of evolution. It's a culture of what do you want to put in your backpack for the future? What do you want your kids to have in their backpack for their future? Do you want all the things your grandparents had to deal with? Slavery, segregation. And from a black person, that's kind of how I would see it. But from a white person living in their world, like what would that person want? Do you want Gina Carano tweets? Right? No. Do you want, do you want certain things? Do you want Donald Trump, a Donald Trump presidency? Do you want that? Do you want a Confederate flag above the Capitol? Do you want a QAnon flag above the? Is that the tools we're gonna progress into the future with? Right? And that's what cancel culture is. You're not canceling good things, right? You're canceling bad things. And the good and bad that we're talking about is not based on history or what worked for our grandparents or slavery or things in the past. It's things that's gonna work for the future. And we could get it wrong, we get it right, and that's okay, right? All the things I'm saying could be wrong, right? Maybe Meghan Markle and Harry, it wouldn't have worked out for anyone going ahead in the future. It was a bad idea. And that's fine if I get that wrong. We correct and we move ahead, right? And that's what cancel culture is. And as far as a comedian thing, if you tell silly jokes that offend people at a time when we all read newspapers and look at stuff where everyone gets offended and you still tell those jokes, you have to get better content, right? Evolve your comedy. Bill Cosby used to have this thing where I think it was Sinbad as well that did it, where as a black comedian, he used to put it out there that they never used the N-word or they never used profanity. I watched, I think, a 2-hour Sinbad comedy special, the funniest thing I've ever seen, Sinbad, and he didn't say an F-bomb, he didn't say, I think the worst he said was the P word and the S word, right? For a vagina and poop. That was it. He didn't say the N-word, he didn't say the F word, he didn't swear once. In 2 hours of his Sinbad comedy, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Not putting out other comedies, I've seen like my favorite comedians, like I don't think Chris Rock does it as much, but Dave Chappelle, like I love all comics, but you could clean it up like in a way that it doesn't offend people, right? And that's progress. If people aren't cursing in 10 years from now in comedy, then don't curse. If people aren't doing certain jokes, don't do those jokes, right? It's funny enough, I like that idea because after a while you just get tired of the N-word jokes. You get tired of the, if I was a white guy doing this, if I was a black guy doing that, you know, like you get tired of that type of, you want progress, right?